Today we're going to have a closer look at the northern Spanish Premier region of La Rioja. La Rioja actually consists of three sub-regions. The first, Rioja Alta, is in the higher western part of the region. It is centred around the town of Aro, and a lot of the vineyards are quite large in size. The wines of Rioja Alta tend to have great balance, and some of the premier names in Spanish winemaking are based here. The smallest part of Rioja is Rioja Alavesa, which is actually the Basque part. Álava is one of the Basque provinces. The soils in Rioja Alavesa tend to be poorer and the yields are lower, producing wines with good acidity but fuller body. The southernmost and largest area of Rioja is known as Rioja Baja, or these days it's Rioja Oriental. It tends to be lower lying and flatter, and it's in the warmer part of the region. So it produces wines with more ripeness and power, but a little less elegance than wines made in the other regions in Rioja. The primary grape in the region is Tempranillo, planted in either bush vine or sometimes in row. But there's also quite a lot of Ganesha and white varieties Viura and Malvasia. Wines in Rioja classically have been produced according to a very rigid set of rules, and also the labelling reflects this. It's effectively a production pyramid. If you look at the base of the pyramid, this is the bulk wine. It's the biggest amount that's produced, and it's basically vinified in stainless steel and put out into the market as soon as it's ready, resulting in a very fresh, fruity wine that's often drunk cold at lunchtime. If you move a little further up the pyramid, you have Crianza wine. Crianza means oak in Spanish. Now, Crianza wine has to be in barrel for at least a year and then have at least a year's bottle aging before it can be released to the market. If you go a little bit further up the pyramid, smaller quantity but better quality, you get to the Reserva level wines. Now, Reserva again has to have at least 1 year in barrel, but it also has to have at least 2 years in bottle before it can be released. So a current vintage Reserva could be 4 or 5 years old. The wine's production process also dictates the amount of cellar aging that it will benefit from. A Crianza is designed to be drunk on release or for 2 or 3 years afterwards, whereas a Reserva wine can be drunk for many, many years, continues to improve for 20 to 30 years in some cases. The boundaries get pushed even further in the Grand Reserva wines, which have even longer in both barrel and bottle. These days, a lot of wine produced in Rioja is what's known as modern Rioja, which is not adhering to these strict principles. Often the best wine that is produced by a winery can be a modern Rioja, made with the best grapes, but it might only have 6 months in oak because this allows the full expression of the wine to come through. One of the most notable effects of these processes is the huge amount of wine that is stored in Rioja in any one time. Go into any winery, not only do you see a huge number of barrels, but you also see many bottle cages such as these containing the bottles of Crianza and Reserva that are aging over time. And if all the production in Rioja stopped tomorrow, Rioja would be able to continue to supply the world for many, many years with the back vintage stocks that it currently has in the wineries. There are two main towns in the Rioja region. Aro in Rioja Alta bills itself as the wine capital of Rioja, and in the more southern part of Rioja Alta is the town of Logroño, which is the biggest town in the region. In contrast, there are many small, very old towns and hilltop villages dotted throughout the landscape. This one here is the village of El Ciego, and it's home to the Marquis de Riscal Hotel, a very distinctive building that was designed by Frank Gehry, the Canadian architect who was also responsible for the most amazing design of the Guggenheim Museum here in Bilbao. These medieval towns are also in complete contrast to some of the amazing modern designs of wineries that now dot the landscape, alongside some structures hundreds of years old, such as the Isios winery near the town of La Guardia in Rioja Alavesa. The topography of the vineyards throughout Rioja is also quite varied. In many cases, particularly in Rioja Alavesa, there are little small plots such as these where microclimates dictate quite different characteristics in the wine. In many cases, these areas may be very, very small and well under 1 hectare. And so as a result, you can get many different flavours from a number of different vineyards, which makes a big difference when it comes to blending the final wine. The vines themselves are also quite varied. The planting can be bush vine, can be in rows, can be a combination of the two. Soil types are also highly variable. As you can see in these shots in Rioja Alta taken in springtime, there is a large amount of change in colour in the soils within these particular vineyards. Combine that with the rolling hills, flatter areas, and that kind of thing, and you get, again, more variation in the grapes that are produced. This vineyard here is a great example of the sedimentation that occurred over millennia. And you can also see, if you look at the ground here in the foreground, quite rocky area in contrast to the clay further up the vineyard. And this is a result of this sedimentation, and in lots of contrast to the more clay soils that we were looking at in a couple of frames ago. The whole region is in the lee of the Cantabrico mountain range, particularly the areas of Alta and Alavesa. And this has a major effect on the climate in Rioja and also the wines that are produced, because it's in the lee of the mountains. It's a lot warmer than on the other side, particularly due to the fern wind effect of the wind blowing over the range. And as you can see in this shot of a vineyard here, that little stone shelter provided for the workers, historically particularly, to get out of the hot sun in the middle of the day because the heat can be intense. The effect of the Cantabrico range, which runs right across Spain, can also be seen in the cloud formations. You get some incredible clouds. And one of the major risks in summer is the build-up of large thunderstorms, which can cause a huge amount of damage to the grapes and the vineyards. So that's a brief overview of the Rioja region, with its fantastic wines, its incredible landscapes, its huge contrast between classical and modern in both the architecture and the wines. And it really is one of the most fantastic areas in Spain, both for wine and just in general. Now, if you want to buy Rioja wine or any of our wines, then go to our website, redbridgeonline.co.nz.